This is 999 ASMR Tarot, and tonight we are going to do a brief look at all the decks I hate and the reasons why. So first, I'm going to start with this one, the Thoth deck. Now, at this particular time, I have really no connection to it. So in the future, that may change. Now, there are some cards in here that I really like, but the biggest reason that I dislike this deck is that it has a more evil or more evilly feel to it. And so there's just a few cards. It's essentially my Christian ideology that I was raised with and studied for most of my life has a little bit of a difficulty with some of the imagery in this deck. And so that's mainly why this one, because that's the biggest reason why the Thoth deck at this particular time doesn't really connect to me. Now, the other reasons are just sort of some technical things, like this down here. You have the name of like the trump cards, the arcana, and then you have the card name over the top of it, and this is sort of it's kind of confusing. It probably would have, to me, it would have just been better to, the devil, and not have to say it was a trump card. The paper is okay. It's a little bit bendy. It's not like, let's say, the Lightseer Tarot, which has really nice colors. This has actually really nice colors too. I'm not mocking that. But the card thickness, probably the nicest cards I have is this one, which is, I feel the cards have a real durable feel to them. They kind of snap back. And that's just like the paper quality. But this thing down here, or maybe even like the borders on it, that's not, the borders on it is not so much of an issue than just that this thing here going on with that faint font behind that marks the suit, and then the name of the card on top of it. That it's a little too busy. I guess that's the right word for it. Now, like a card I like. Now, this one is actually really interesting because I saw this design before. So I saw this design in the Solabuska Tarot on the same card. So it's obvious that whoever the artist who designed the artist who designed the Thoth deck did have access to the Solabuska, and because you can see this is it's just very similar, except this is like, this looks like rope versus snakes, and that's, I just wanted to point that out. So I'm not gonna get rid of this deck. Now, this is my favorite card in here because it's just so dynamic. But a lot of the cards in the Thoth deck are just that. They are dynamic. But as I said before, what I don't like about it at this particular time is that I just don't connect with it. But I'm going to keep it as a reference deck. You see this box really sucks. But a lot of these flip top boxes are like that. They just suck. So it has this little bag, which I don't really like the bag either, because you don't really know what it is in your drawer where you keep them. Okay, so the next set of decks that I hate, and I don't really hate them, are these ones. And it's the same issue. Now, it doesn't have an evilly feel to me. It's just I just plain don't connect to it. But like at the Toth Tarot, I'm going to keep these. I'm not going to upgrade ever and get the larger size one. But with this, it's just a major disconnection. I mean, the images are cool, and I'll end up using them for writing prompts. And it's not the. I do have, they do have an energy feel to them, which I do notice. And so I can't say it's a major disconnection, but I just don't necessarily see that I will ever use it as a divinatory tool. Because I'm not really, because when I look at these things, I don't necessarily get a intuitive response to just looking at it to say, well, what exactly does that mean? And anyways, but as far as using it for how I have used it so far, I'm going to continue to do it that way with the coffee shapes, the shapes in the coffee foam and so forth, because oftentimes they're animal shapes. I got one that has like a shape just like this on it, which I haven't done a short video on it yet, but I will. So these are really nice. Now this is actually a really interesting card. There are some interesting cards here. This ladder, the 9 of Wands, but there's that one swords, the 9 of Swords, which is what this one really reminds me of. And so if you look in the RWS tarot, the 9 of Swords has a ladder in it as well. And so you are in your bed, kept awake at night by your anxieties, which are all these swords. But the swords arranged on the wall it gives you the opportunity that you can get out of this state just by climbing up the ladder and climbing out of your funk. And so when I look at this card, that's exactly what I see, but this is the 9 of Batons and not 9 of Wands and not the 9 of Swords. So it's they're kind of using, to me, I feel like they're using this image over here in this card. But so that's these cards. Some of the images I don't particularly care for. The earthworms. I have a hard time with worms anyway, so that's just a creature that worms and snakes. And so, anyways, that is this one. And this pocket oracle is pretty much the same. It's the same issue, so I don't really need to go pulling this out and looking at it too much. But it has, I probably would be more likely to use the oracle deck over the tarot. Isn't that a cute little furry face there? Oh, Mary had a little lamb. So no, this is maybe hate too strong of a word for this. This is a deck that at this particular time in my journey with divinatory cards, I'm not using this one at this time. So it does actually have an energy to it that's kind of nice. Like, for instance, this is an object to me that has energy to it, and so is this rock that came from Istanbul, and this also has a really a nice energy to it, and it's really has it's kind of, it's always cool, and it just feels very peaceful. So when I talk about energy, that's kind of what I'm thinking of, is that objects have energy in them, and that's sort of why some of the card decks that I'm going to show here, they just don't have that energy to them. They're lacking it, and which is the reason why I just kind of dislike them. So we're going to move on to the next one as soon as I put this away. Now, the guidebooks on them are really nice. They're just kind of small. It would be nice to have a larger guidebooks. Now, this is another deck that I have like no energy connection to at all. But I don't know why I bought this. But I think I'm going to use it in a future project, future art project. The cards themselves are really nice. So this is a Lenormand Oracle deck, but it's kind of like the primal, which is the original, the first one, and it has very simple images. And I haven't really studied it, but I'm also keeping this. I'm not going to get rid of it, but I have plans for it in the future. It has a real nice box too. I'm going to move on to this one. This one is a really horrid one. It kind of starts with this the box. There's a chinciness, because the box it broke here. It came that way, and I'm gonna probably get rid of this deck eventually. The biggest thing I don't like, well, there's a lot of things I don't like about this deck, and a lot of it is, now look, the cards are sticky, and it's really a nice idea to do a comic book themed deck, but so you can see the cards are sticky. The colors are not very nice. This one's a little bit better than the DC, but if you look at these card colors in comparison to, let's say, the Light Seer, even the card typed with the Light Seer is really a lot nicer. I like the Light Seer deck a lot, but these here, you can see how flimsy they are, and you feel like they could just tear really easy. And so that's the one thing, is the cards construction themselves are just cheap for the amount of money that you had to pay for them. So, for instance, we go back to like this Radiant Rider-Waite in a tin, and these are kind of more like playing card styles, and they are really a high quality card. The colors on them are really nice, and they're vibrant. So I think that with this one, I feel like the card, the publisher, and the people who contracted to do this were really lazy, and that's just the bottom line of it. They were lazy in putting it together, lazy in they could have made maybe a card with a little bit more of a more plastic like. It would feel more durable or more like something you might want to use. But I think it's just pure novelty. So in that sense, it's like, why bother? You know, you can just read the comic books if you so desire. And then there's the other thing about this. We go on into the writing of the guidebook itself. And then this is just another level of laziness, is that it's almost like the writers, they ran out of money, or they didn't really have a clear idea about what these cards were supposed to be meaning. And so, you know, there's a lot of generic words in here that maybe they just took another guidebook and they just sort of copied and pasted stuff in there and changed a few words around. And so, I mean, it's like a missed opportunity to, you know, like for instance, the Wolverine. Pack a bag and grab some road snacks because the iconic loner has arrived and it's time for a solitary adventure. Wolverine may be cranky and gruff, but he also understands the importance of time to turn inward, trusting his inner wisdom. You are being called to do the same, make time, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just kind of, like, for instance, if we go and look at a more real Oracle deck, like this one, and you look at the cards quality themselves are really nice, and the colors are really dynamic. And so that's what it is. This is just not dynamic at all. And it could be dynamic, but it isn't. And so let's say we go in and you take a look at the guidebook for here is really extensive, and it kind of goes in on different potential meanings to every card. And so this is a really thought-provoking and superior product to this. And so that's what I really don't like about this. And I just feel like I was ripped off. I think I paid, what, $15 for it. So I was really, I don't know exactly, maybe it was between $10 and $15. But even at $10, it was too much. It was a ripoff. So that's my review of the Magic of Marvel deck and why I hate it. But you can just see by, you know, looking at these cards here how sticky they are and how unwieldy they are. And then this box, which is really chintzy, and yeah, I can't even get that apart. There we go. And then lastly, this is this deck too. And this one is also wrought with the same problems as the other one, but it also has so much more potential that now it has a little bit nicer box. But if you look at, let's say, the colors on the front of the box and the colors on the card, there's a sort of a disconnect there. And these are really exciting colors. If you see this and you're thinking, oh wow, I like that. Those are um, with the characters and so forth. And so on the outside of the box, those colors are pretty dynamic. But when we move on to the inside, and here again, it's another, this part of the box is kind of chintzy and cheap. But these cards are also sticky. And it's kind of a, maybe, I think I heard something about you can put cornstarch on them to unstick them, but I think I shuffled them once or twice, and I didn't like how it handled. Now, there are some cards in here that I really like, but one of the things I noticed that this is a cups card, and this is also a cup card, and so it's like they didn't quite make up their mind as to how the cups were going to be. It's like a lack of a consistency. I mean, is this a cup or is this a bird bath? A fountain. So yeah, so we got a fountain of water and a fountain of fire. And so, or maybe that, yeah, it's clearly fire. So it's like the cauldrons of fire in Conan the Barbarian. That was the one with Thulsa Doom, right? With James Earl Jones, and they go into the mountain, and then there's these cauldrons of the cannibals and the snakes, and yeah, that's what these things reminded me of. But anyway, so that's kind of weird. Now, then also with the writing in the guidebook, there's like a major disconnection. So, like, for instance, in the guidebook, it says this card is supposed to be celebration. I don't know about you, but I don't see anything about celebration in this card. Now, I see stability. I look at that as like a doorway, a barrier, and then these are also the wands, but to me they look like spears. So I just don't know why they just didn't call them spears instead of wands. Why go through all that trouble of making a novelty tarot deck and then stick with the traditional meanings? I mean, because you look at in the Morgan Greer, they call the wands rods, and so like the Ace of Rods. And now these are kind of thin cards, but they're more durable than these. And you see, and then here, look, the colors on these are just fantastically dynamic. I just love this deck. But as you can see, between the Morgan Greer or even the Radiant Rider-Waite, even this card, even this deck here has more dynamic cards than does this. So, for instance, just the color schemes here on this Four of Cups. You can see that. Those are just, it's pretty dynamic here too. But now there are some cards in here that I like. Now this with the pentacles, but I don't know why they call it pentacles, but they should have just called it rings. And then it has this DC sort of a symbol here. I don't know, they could have just called it that. Instead of projecting a pentacle, it could have just projected that symbol. And then the writers could have, had a little bit of fun with it and in creating their in their guidebook that would make it correspond to the cards themselves. I mean, if I look at like the Four of Wands, and then again, like I said with the other one, with the Marvel Oracle, there is a disconnect. Anyway, there's it's like that. It's like they were handed an outline of what needed to be in the book, and so the author had to go do just a brief amount of research, but it's like the author didn't have any knowledge of the tarot when they put together this guidebook, and that's really what it feels like when you read through it. Now I'm gonna keep the deck, but I'm not gonna keep that Marvel Oracle deck. I don't know when I'm gonna get rid of it, but anyways, let me see if I can find that Four of Wands in here. You know, you can just never find those pages when you're looking for them. Now, I don't have any issues. Now, some people who've reviewed this deck, they have issues with the fact that some of the cards just don't have people in them. And actually, I have no issues with that. Four of Wands is right here because I got confused by the spears. So, in the Four of Wands, it says, when was the last time you celebrated? The Four of Wands calls for a moment to recognize your accomplishments, reward yourself for a job well done, and have some fun with your loved ones. Every journey has milestones, and right now you need to rejoice in reaching them. And so what in that card, these cards are so sticky, what in this card means that? I don't get it. I look at that card and I do not see that in here. Maybe, you know, when you look look into a traditional Rider-Waite card, you kind of see that, but I don't see that in this. So it was just like the artists who put these images together, maybe they never even saw the guidebook. Maybe they put the images together for, I mean, that's just, I just feel like this was a horribly constructed deck. Though, granted, it does have some really cool pictures, cool cards in it. Even though I didn't like the explanation of this card, I like the card itself. It's a really cool card. Now, some of the my major arcana cards, they don't make sense to me. Now, maybe if I was more familiar with the DC world, I might have a more of an affinity towards this, and these cards might make more sense to me. But now this one is a really cool image here. The Chariot is just this, you know, it's just this guy, the Flash, flying into the situation. I mean, that's a real dynamic image, and this image here is like, this is really cool, but it would be even cooler if it was that League of Justice symbol. But, you know, you can just kind of feel, if you read a lot of comic books, you can kind of see this thing whipping at you. I mean, this is a blah image. I mean, okay, so here, I guess they have a blending of two different symbols, of the bird bath with the bird bath fountain and the cauldron of fire. So if they were running that guidebook together, they could have at least have defined for themselves what this means. And as you see, these cards are sticky. Now, of course, that one is a very traditional image. Everyone does your Three of Swords like this, with the exception of what sits in the Marseille deck. This is also a really super cool image. Just a lot of motion and energy in it. And I do like this concept of the spears. All this red. But I don't necessarily see that this red means what they think it means. Now this, with the swords, this is also a really blah image. But they really went all out with the suit of the Pentacles. And pretty much all of those Pinnacle cards are really cool. I can say that for it, but like there again, I don't know, maybe, but this actually to me reminds me more like of an ace of swords or an ace of wands, or that kind of with the hand coming out of the clouds with the object, and of course that's just like a traditional Rider-Waite card right there. But it would be easy to confuse the images of the wand with this. If it didn't say wands on here, well, you maybe just think it was spears or swords or something like that. That it would be easy to confuse those suits together. Then if you come across this and it's like, what the hell is that? Of course, there we got these cool cards here. All of these ones are really cool, and the wands are actually pretty cool too. I mean, I like this one too. This image, like the Three of Cups. This one seems to me like more like the type of image you might have with the Three of Cups, of three dancing ladies with cups of wine or something like that coming together. And this sword, this is the only sword one that was any good, with this mask on it, but in the sword in the clouds. Four of Swords. Yeah, maybe. And yeah, it's obvious that's a strength card, but I don't get, Hermit out of this one. Wheel of Fortune, that doesn't seem like Wheel of Fortune to me. There's no wheel in it. It's just some guy flying in a circle. But a lot of these cards have suns and circles. But this is actually pretty cool with the Hangman and the Rubber Man, kind of like Mr. Fantastic. And yeah, maybe. But overall, I mean, I wouldn't recommend buying this. Actually, this deck does have a little tinge of energy to it for me, so which is probably why I'm going to keep it. Maybe if I have the energy in the future, I might write my own guidebook for this. I like this card too. Anyway, so that's all I have for tonight. The decks I hate, and a few reasons why. But, this is kind of with the shuffling of this is kind of insufferable. I mean, it's okay, but the cards are still really sticky, and I suppose if I shuffled them enough time, they would unstick themselves. Marvel does make a tarot, but I suspect that it's exactly the same as this, in that it's, for the money that you pay for it, you're not really getting too much. I mean, because even with the Lightseer Tarot, for instance, which is a really nice tarot deck, that you get a really nice guidebook, and the author has gone in and done a lot of explaining about the cards and giving you a lot of insights and directions. And with those superhero novelty theme decks, they lack that depth. They lack the depth, or even it seems like they even lack the knowledge of the tarot that they're trying to put together. But this is a really nice guidebook. And these cards are really nice too. But you can feel them. They're kind of slidey. They're not sticky at all. And so I think I paid like $18 or $20 for this, or it's close to the same price I did those DC tarot decks. But these ones, there's this guy's channel that I follow, Moon Scarab Tarot, and the guy in Moon Scarab Tarot almost looks like this guy here. But how these cards are really easy to work with too. I don't really, when I do read for myself, I don't really use this as often because it always gives me bad news, which is not a bad thing, but maybe that's why I like those other two brighter colored decks, because they seem to give me less bad news. But you can see how easy this is to shuffle. The cards just slide past one another, and anyways, even like with this new deck that I bought, I had this on pre-order for quite a long time. I still don't know what all the cards are because it's hard to tell them apart. But this is the deck, the oldest tarot deck that we have, the oldest complete tarot deck, and so this is also for me is a reference deck. And this has nice cards, just by Lo Scarabeo. And even this one has a nice energy to them. I didn't think I was going to like it because of these horrific images that are in it. But then when I read a little bit about it, this whole Solabusca Tarot is about the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. And so probably when they put the game together, you're looking at like a 15th century version of like a choose your own adventure game, or like a Magic the Card gathering game, or some kind of Dungeons and Dragons or something like that. That's really what this thing has the feel of. It's like a role-playing game with cards. So you didn't really kind of think that people did that in the past, but I guess they did. So these two are like my favorite decks here. But I'll talk about why I like them at a later date. Anyways, I'm gonna call it a night here. Thank you for tuning in, and tomorrow night around this same time I'm going to do another I'm going to color another tarot card in my tarot coloring book. And then on Sunday afternoon, I'm going to do a writing lab at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So thank you for tuning in to 999 ASMR Tarot. I'm William James, and I'm saying good night and have pleasant dreams tonight. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.